What's up, you guys? Brendan here. So there's a lot going on right now with the virus and the wild daily swings in the market, and I know a lot of us are focused on saving money or finding the best deals in the market or even finding a job. But it's important not to forget about the little changes we can make in our daily lives that either lead to a life of abundance and surplus or have us living paycheck to paycheck and wondering why we can't get ahead. So with that in mind, I want to use this video to get back to the basics. This may be obvious to many of you, but if you're like me, sometimes you get caught up in the day-to-day grind and you kind of forget some of the simpler things. So I like to use this as a little bit of review to make sure I'm staying on track. All of these tips really are just a starting point for the main goal of this channel, which is to help you reach financial independence and give you the option to retire early. Now let's get into it. I think that everybody should aspire to become financially independent. Even if you love your job and think that there's no way you'll ever want to retire or quit and want to do it the rest of your life, you never know how your priorities will change. You could get fired, you could have a new boss that you don't like as much, you could get injured and not be able to do your job anymore, maybe you have a new family and you want to spend more time with them. If you're financially independent, then that gives you the freedom to make these changes if you'd like. So the first tip here, don't buy things you can't afford. Have you ever heard someone say, I can afford it and I deserve it, so I'm gonna get it? I'd wager that that person likely hasn't reached financial independence yet. So how can you tell if you can actually afford something? Well, first, are you financially independent? If not, then that should be your primary focus. You should save as much money as possible to try and become financially independent. You don't want to have to rely on your employer for security in your life. Once you have financial independence, you have the freedom to make changes in your life without having to worry about your security. Also, have you paid down all of your debt aside from a low interest mortgage? If not, then that should also be a focus of yours. Reduce that debt, get rid of the high interest debt in particular. And obviously, things like your everyday needs and your health are the most important, but just don't overdo it. And that leads me to my next point. Don't buy things you don't need. It's extremely important to understand the difference between wants and needs. A lot of times we trick ourselves into thinking we need something when in reality, we just want it. For example, on a recent trip to Hawaii, my wife and I used credit card points to stay in a beautiful hotel on Kauai. If you'd like to learn more about how we traveled to Hawaii for free, you can view my video here. But while the room at the hotel was free when we used our points, several of the amenities and the food was not. In fact, it was extremely expensive. My wife and I enjoyed laying out by the pools and the beach, and a lot of the people around us ordered food and drinks that looked really good. And we had the temptation to order this ourselves. And then we didn't. We had actually planned ahead, and we shopped before we got to the hotel at the cheapest grocery store on the island, which was actually Walmart. We bought healthy food, had it in our room, so we could go back up there when we got hungry and eat a much less expensive meal. And it was actually healthier too. And the funny part is that thinking back, I wouldn't have been any happier if I had ordered the food from the waitstaff. In fact, I would have been less happy. By getting my own food, I was one, saving money, but also I was eating a healthier meal. As you begin to say no to things you don't need, you actually begin to feel a weight lift off of you. And it's the weightlessness of not being tied down by your possessions. We also left Hawaii without getting any souvenirs. And souvenirs, I think, are honestly one of the dumbest things you can get. A lot of times it's a little trinket and it reminds you of your trip there, but really it's just a burden that you have to store for the rest of your life. And then you feel bad throwing it away because you got it to remember this great trip you're on. We take pictures and use that as memories. And honestly, every material object should be thought of as a burden. You have to store it, you have to move it when you move, and potentially at some point you have to convince yourself to throw it away when it's no longer useful to you. Everything you buy, you should think about if its usefulness outweighs this burden. Think about the storage area in your home right now. I bet there are at least a few items that provide no use to you, are just taking up space, and you're having trouble throwing away or getting rid of. These items weigh you down. So my third point is related to the first two, and it's don't pay for a storage locker. If you pay for a storage locker, and it's not just for a month or two in between moving, then that's a sign that you own too much stuff. Think about the last time you went there and actually needed something from the storage locker. Sometimes the mental burden of knowing you have all this stuff there can outweigh the economic burden. I have a friend who was living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a garage. They moved into a 1-bedroom apartment and couldn't fit all their stuff there, so they bought a storage locker to store all their things. They thought, at some point we'll want this stuff when we move into a house down the line. Eventually they did move into a house, but it happened to be smaller than the 2-bedroom apartment that they had before, and it didn't have a garage. So all of the stuff that they paid to store, in the end they just ended up getting rid of anyway. And even if you don't have a storage room, think about your home. How much stuff do you have that doesn't provide you any value? Have you ever considered moving or downsizing your home, but didn't know what to do with all your stuff? So instead, you stay in your home paying more on utilities and your mortgage just so you can store this stuff that doesn't provide you any value in the end. So here's what you can do to fix this problem right now. Anything in your storage room or anything in your home that you haven't used in the last month, put it for sale on Craigslist. If it doesn't sell within a month, then reduce the price and put it on sale again. If you find you need any of these things in the future, then you can always repurchase them. And I guarantee that the money you save from not having the storage locker or living in a smaller home will more than outweigh the cost of repurchasing these items. And also, in addition to that, you'll have this extra money, these green workers that you can put to work in the stock market to make you more money in the meantime. The fourth tip is to manage your credit score. If your credit is below 750, then make it a priority to improve it. Pay off all outstanding debt, especially high interest debt like credit cards. Also, don't buy anything on credit that you can't pay off that month. If you have a low credit limit, then don't use your credit cards as much. You don't want your utilization to be above 10%. So what that means is if your credit limit is $10,000, then you don't ever want your outstanding balance to be above $1,000. And also, don't close your oldest credit card accounts. You want to keep your credit history as long as possible. Making those changes will greatly increase your credit score if you haven't been doing them already. And having good credit is an easy way to save money. It gives you the best interest rates with mortgages. It gives you better options when renting. You can get better credit cards to potentially travel hack and get free travel like I did going to Hawaii. And it seems like 750 is really the magical number where once you go above that, you don't get any more benefit. At 750, you get the best rates for pretty much everything. And so the fifth tip is to stock up on things when they're on sale. For example, my wife and I eat a lot of eggs. We eat about 6 eggs combined each day. So that's about 3.5 dozen eggs a week. Now I know that eggs last between 3 and 5 weeks before they go bad. So when we're out shopping and we see a good deal on eggs, rather than just getting a few extra dozen, the correct amount we should get is between 10 and 11 dozen. Now before everyone angrily writes in the comments about the amount of eggs we've been buying, we haven't been doing this during the quarantine. We don't want to take all the eggs away from everyone else, and we don't want to be a burden on the grocery stores. But it's important to apply this philosophy to everything you purchase. It's even easier when things don't have an expiration date. We do this with toothpaste, floss, berries, and a number of other things. The sixth tip is not to gamble or buy lottery tickets. You gotta be in it to win it, right? You can't win unless you play. Studies have shown that many people living paycheck to paycheck also spend a good amount of money on lottery tickets. It's a lazy and unproductive way to try and achieve wealth. The same thing happens in casinos. People seem to love the rush of that with one pull of the handle, all of your troubles can go away, when in reality, you are mathematically guaranteed to lose if you play long enough. You should never gamble if your goal is to get richer. It's as simple as that. There are no such thing as lucky people or magic numbers. Those are just superstitions. The only way to win is not to play. The only way to get lucky is by understanding the odds and then putting the chips on the side of the table that are in your favor. Here's how to get rich. Earn as much as possible, waste as little as possible, and invest the difference. And it's possible to gamble in the stock market too. Don't waste your time trying to find the next penny stock that will triple. That's the same as gambling. The seventh and final tip is that good fortune is for buying financial independence, not more stuff. If you work hard enough, most of us will end up with a lucky break eventually. This could come in the form of a raise, a bonus, an inheritance, maybe an unexpected gift from a family member, but you have to resist the urge to spend this money immediately. When you do catch a break, it should be put towards paying down high interest debt, to invest in the stock market, or put towards buying a rental property. If you haven't yet reached financial independence, then it doesn't make any sense to use this money to inflate your lifestyle. It should be seen as a shortcut to the finish line. By following and practicing these obvious tips, you'll find it easier and easier to save 50 to 70% of your income, and then you'll be well on your way to financial independence. What do you think are other obvious tips? Are there any other things that are easy to change in day-to-day life that most people overlook? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, and also hit the little bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. Take care. Bye.